explaining what you actually see, and which shouldn't be thought of as in opposition to comparative advantage theory, but as adding another feature that comparative advantage theory doesn't have. So why does this alternative theory do a better job of fitting the facts? I think it's because the alternative theory can accommodate the internationalization of production. You see, one very important feature of most recent globalization has been the fact that it's no longer single countries which are responsible for production. In all developing countries, there is, for example, a very important role for foreign investment. Well, foreign investment is really a form of international production. That, in the early 19th century, you didn't have, except in the case of colonialization, foreign colonies, you didn't have the enormous scale of foreign investment that you have these days. So the new theory does accommodate this. Comparative advantage theory does not.
Maskin, and that is ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phnom Penh. I'm from Economics Institute of Cambodia. I have a few questions in regard to your theory, because I see that you have classified 4 levels of the labor force. So that I want to know how you classify that 4 levels. And the second question is, I see that the level of labor classification seems to be absolutely bigger than another one. Because in the country and CNE I play in a poor country. And the third question is relevant to the inequality. Because how can you explain the inequality between the poor country and the rich country, or within the poor country themselves? Okay, thank you.
Important for my conclusions is the idea that the rich country has more people of higher skill than the poor country, or at least has higher proportion of higher skilled people. And furthermore, there are at least 4 different skill levels. I don't think either assumption is very controversial. I think without doubt, richer countries do. Then
I just want to know, because you assume the A is bigger than B, but it seems to be absolutely bigger, not relatively bigger. That I think it's impossible.
A workers have more skill than B workers.
Let's say you assume that A is the manager labor force and B is subordinate and C manager.
Sorry, I'm not assuming that. I'm not assuming that A workers perform managerial roles. That is a consequence of their having higher skills. Because the managerial role is more sensitive to skill, you will prefer to have higher skilled people in the managerial role. But that is a consequence of the theory, not an assumption of the theory.
80 billion per year. So I just wonder what happened right now and how many percentage of the weapon industry in the US GDP, and is there any other industry that can make more money than the weapons, ship and airplanes? And do you think that the weapon industry is part of A? Yes, because
it's been the United States' role to intervene not always wisely, I'm afraid, but to intervene when, I would prefer to see this role as policemen shared more equally. In particular, I think we would all be better off if Europe monopolized by the U.S. Thanks for your question.
We have another question.
And first of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Maskin, for giving this session for Cambodian people to learn more and to share your technology. I basically have two questions. The first to the day worker to reduce the inequality. So my first question is, I don't really understand clearly myself how we match the skill level C and D in the practical things. But from my understanding, like in the case of government sector in Cambodia, I see more in foreign investment when they come to Cambodia. The skill that they take is not the low skill, that non-skilled worker. So I see more is in this government factory case, I see more is the matching between B and D skill level. And if that is the case, then in Cambodia now we are in the situation that now working with the government industry into the maybe the C-level skill worker to be so that they can be able to move into the management. And to make sure that after the government factory move out, we have the existing skill, not just the non-skilled labor. And this is my first question.
So could you?
Okay. So my question is that in Cambodia, in government factory, from understanding, I think we have the matching from this globalization. We have the matching between B and D, but we still have the inequality in short. And my second question is about the last. I take the example of, for example, in rice sector. Now Cambodians have export to some countries, but we have limitation in terms of the quantity that we can produce and also the quality to comply to the international standard. So we basically can produce only some limitation of quality and can export to only a part of the potential market that actually we can if we have a better enabling environment through maybe the good infrastructure that can be used the transportation costs or the irrigation system or the technology. So for me, I think from my understanding, so maybe it's in a nutshell, I think that more than the training, we have we need another enabling environment. Like as I mentioned earlier, it can be infrastructure, how you can help those producers to link to the international market. So to sum up my question is whether the training that you mean is there is, you can elaborate more on the training that you mean that you said that when we increase, because for me, now I think there may be another thing, the enabling environment that I say overall. It maybe include the linkage to market, technology, infrastructure. Thank you.
Let me say something about the second question. So you mentioned the possibility of investing in agriculture, say rice production, which I think is an important development opportunity for Cambodia. So there's talk about introducing modern agricultural techniques, irrigation, planting, improving the seeds, rice seeds that are used, use of fertilizer in order to upgrade the rice industry in Cambodia. All of those steps require the people actually doing the rice production, acquiring some skills. You can't undertake modern agriculture, modern farming, without the training and knowledge that modern farming requires. modern agriculture is very different from subsistence agriculture. It cannot be performed by what I'm calling the D workers. People have to have some skills. However, if they do have those skill markets, it's through the development of rice production for export that Cambodia can successfully expand its agricultural sector. So I think your example actually fits very well into this view that I've been laying out. Thanks very much for the question.
Okay, I'll take one. William Clark from the World Bank. I'm trade economist here. Very great to have you here today. Certainly the implications of your model are rather disturbing from some aspects. And I take the policy implication, which is that we need to invest in retraining. Are there any broader policy implications you would look to in the international trading system, the superstructure, the architecture of international trade, to resolve some of these issues?
The retraining and educational business, like every other business, depends on effective organization to be a success. So I've been talking to people, not so much from the World Bank, but from the UN, about need to know how to do it effectively. So just as it's important that the D workers learn these new techniques in order to elevate their position, people providing advice about new techniques need to learn how to teach this. So that suggests that these are already doing programs in conveying job training techniques to the D workers of the world. That's something that I've been discussing. If you have your own ideas, I'd be glad to hear them.
Well, I guess it just speaks to, and I'll be very quick here, it speaks to something we look at. If it's something you've thought about, it's something we call services mode for it. It's anything you've thought about with respect to your colleagues, and perhaps it's something we can take up on a review later, but perhaps it is something within the architecture of the global trading system, such as that rule, that is preventing some of the more
We could talk about that some more later on. Thank you.
I'm a first-year student here, National University of Management, and I also studied in one other university, IFL, Institute of Foreign Languages. And as you can see now that economics in Cambodia is better now, but I'm sorry, because it is a bit out of topic, not about the workers, low skill workers, but I really want to ask you about economics. We can see now that economics in Cambodia is better now, but there are still globalization.
So what advice would I offer? Well, I should say, first of all, the state of the Cambodian economy. And so it's somewhat presumptuous of me to try to give advice based on my limited knowledge. But let me at least try to make a couple of observations concerning globalization.